Buenas noches y bienvenidos a un nuevo video de nuestro canal El Mundo de Nox. Hoy exploraremos una figura que está envuelta en secretos y misterio. Theodore Robert Conwell Bundy, mejor conocido como Ted Bundy, el hombre cuyo nombre evocan más preguntas que respuestas. Nacido el 24 de noviembre de 1946 en Burlington, Vermont, su vida estuvo marcada por decisiones que lo llevaron al abismo.
I say that to you sincerely. It's a tragedy for this court to see that such a total waste, I think, of humanity that I've experienced in this court. You're a bright young man.
I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved. Without question, without exception. What I'm saying now, that there is loose in their towns and their communities people like me today whose dangerous impulses are being fueled day in and day out by violence in the media in its various forms, particularly sexualized violence.
Desde temprana edad, la vida de Bundy estuvo rodeada de misterios. Nacido en circunstancias poco claras, creció creyendo que sus abuelos eran sus padres y que su madre biológica era su hermana mayor. Esta confusión marcó sus primeros años, creando una base emocional frágil. En 1950, su madre Louise lo llevó a Tacoma, Washington, donde contrajo matrimonio con Johnny Culpeper Bundy. Aunque Johnny adoptó legalmente a Ted, nunca lograron formar un vínculo cercano. Ted, siempre reservado, mostraba indicios de una personalidad introspectiva y desconfiada.
Durante su juventud, Bundy destacó académicamente, obteniendo buenas calificaciones y ganándose el reconocimiento de sus maestros. En la Universidad de Washington estudió psicología, mostrando un interés particular en la conducta humana, algo que podría interpretarse como que él quería entender sus propias inquietudes. Fue durante esta etapa que conoció a Stephanie Brooks, una joven que representó el estándar de perfección en él. Stephanie, una persona refinada y ambiciosa, se convirtió en el centro de su mundo. Sin embargo, cuando ella terminó la relación en 1968, Bundy cayó en una profunda frustración. Aquella ruptura fue un catalizador para los oscuros impulsos que estaban dentro de él.
Tras la ruptura, Bundy buscó rehacer su vida inscribiéndose en la Facultad de Derecho. Sin embargo, nunca completó sus estudios. Durante este tiempo, también empezó a desarrollar un comportamiento errático, robos menores y manipulación de las personas a su alrededor. Se volvieron parte de su rutina. En 1973, reavivó su relación con Stephanie, pero esta vez la utilizó como un objeto de venganza, abandonándola abruptamente para luego desaparecer de su vida. Este acto frío y calculado marcó su transformación definitiva en un hombre peligroso.
En la madrugada del 4 de enero de 1974, Bundy cometió su primer ataque conocido, irrumpiendo en la habitación de Karen Sparks, una estudiante de 18 años de la Universidad de Washington. La brutalmente la dejó con grandes dichas, le cambiaron la vida para siempre. Karen sobrevivió, pero terminó teniendo un grave problema cerebral por los daños. Este acto marcó en Bundy un rastro de horror y locura que dejaría a su paso.
Poco después, el 1 de febrero de 1974, Linda Ann Haley, de 21 años, desapareció de su habitación en Seattle. Bundy irrumpió durante la noche, golpeó brutalmente mientras dormía y llevándose su cuerpo sin dejar rastro inmediato. Linda era conocida por su voz angelical como locutora de reportes climáticos. Sus restos fueron hallados más tarde en una zona boscosa al este de la ciudad, mostrando señales de violencia extrema. El 12 de marzo de 1974, Donna Gail Manson, de 19 años, estudiante de la Universidad Evergreen State College, desapareció mientras caminaba hacia un concierto de jazz. Bundy confesó más tarde haberla secuestrado y que le quitó la vida. Aunque sus restos nunca fueron encontrados, su desaparición dejó un vacío y un sinfín de preguntas en la comunidad universitaria. En abril de 1974, Susan Rancourt, de 18 años, una brillante estudiante de Central Washington State College, cruzó el camino de Bundy mientras caminaba hacia su dormitorio después de una reunión. Con su truco de cabestrillo y su habilidad para inspirar confianza, Ted logró que Susan lo ayudara. Ella nunca llegó a su destino. Sus restos, encontrados meses después, confirmaron el terror que Bundy había infligido. La osadía de Bundy aumentaba con cada crimen. En julio del 74, en plena luz del día, secuestró a Janice Hutt, de 23 años, y a Denise Naslund, de 19, del parque estatal Lake Smashmish, en Washington. Ambas jóvenes desaparecieron el mismo día, lo que provocó pánico en la región. Sus restos fueron descubiertos juntos meses más tarde, confirmando la brutalidad de Bundy.
En ese mismo año, Rhonda Stapley se encontró con Ted Bundy en medio de la calle. Ella, buscando un autobús para ir a la escuela, Ted se le ofreció para poderla llevar. Es ahí donde Ted Bundy abusó de ella. Sin embargo, logró salir con vida y huir. Por miedo al qué dirán, a que su mamá la sacase de la escuela por subirse a carros de extraños, no comentó nada. No fue hasta un año después que volvió a ver su rostro, pero esta vez en las noticias, informando del arresto local de un hombre. Fue entonces cuando finalmente Rhonda pudo escuchar el nombre de aquella persona que intentó quitarle la vida: Ted Bundy. Años después, estaría en una entrevista. He aquí su testimonio.
It was October of 1974. I was a pharmacy student at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. I was at a city park waiting for a bus to take me back up to campus. The bus was late. I was getting frustrated. And then this tan Volkswagen drove by very slowly. Cute driver kind of looked at me as he went past, and then he stopped and backed up and leaned over and rolled down the passenger window and asked me where I was going. I told him I was going up to the U, and he said, "Me too, hop in." So I opened the door and got in. The first thing that I noticed was the inside passenger door handle was missing, and he leaned over and pulled the door shut. But I wasn't alarmed. I figured college kid, college car, things fall off. Just a couple of blocks, he turned a way that wasn't the normal route to the university. And I asked him about that, and he was very polite and asked my permission if it would be all right if he took a little detour. He told me he had to run an errand up by the zoo, and I told him that would be fine. I didn't care. I thought I would still be home faster than if I had waited for the bus. And then we went right on past the zoo, and I said, "Hey, I thought we were taking me to the zoo." And he said, "No." I said, "Near the zoo." That road goes over the hill and drops down into Parley's Canyon, which is the main highway back into the city. We get to the bottom of that canyon, we should have turned right to go towards campus. And instead he turned left and started driving up another canyon. And as he's driving, he's kind of looking at parking places and side roads. The conversation started to go weird then because he stopped talking to me. And I'm still trying to make idle conversation. And I'm thinking that he's probably looking for a place to pull off and park and wants to make out. And I don't know him, and I'm not really a make-out person. But he's still a cute law student, and I don't want to offend him, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'm thinking of, how do I get out of this situation? And then he pulled into a parking place and parked the car and turned it off. And then he turned in the car seat, so he's kind of facing me, and he leaned in really close. I thought he was going to kiss me. Instead, he said very quietly, "Do you know what? I'm going to." And he put his hands on my throat and started squeezing. My first thought was, it has to be some kind of a joke. This guy's got a weirdest sense of humor. But that was just maybe a fraction of a second because I realized he was squeezing too tightly. He was serious and I was in trouble. And there's no door handle.
What did you do?
We had a little small battle in the car, but I went unconscious.
So he choked you to the point of unconsciousness.
Yes.
So you go unconscious. You wake up on a picnic table. Are you near the car?
Probably about 30 feet away from the car.
Okay. Do you know how much time has transpired?
I don't. I woke up, he was face like they do on the movies when they're wanting to wake somebody up from being drunk or something. And then he pulled me off the picnic table and was slugging me in the stomach. I was doubled over on the ground, begging him to stop.
Were you screaming and crying?
Yes, and begging for my life. I was telling him, don't hit me anymore, you know.
And he's hitting you in the stomach.
I'm losing my breath. I'm almost throwing up. I'm worrying that ribs are breaking and stuff, possibly.
Okay, and so now you're on the ground.
Now I'm on the ground. And he sat on me, on my stomach and chest, mashing me so that there's no air. And I said, get off, I can't breathe. And he said, you have to relax. And if you stop struggling, I'll let you breathe. And so I held still for a minute, and he did let me breathe a little bit, kind of scooted back on me so he wasn't smashing me so much. And then he put his hand over my nose and mouth and cut off my air. And I passed out again. And he sort of enjoyed just what, all I remember is his eyes were just black and evil. The next thing I knew, I was laying on the ground, and I was sort of surprised when I came to again. And it's pitch dark, and he was standing by the open door, fiddling with something in the back seat, like 30 feet away from me. And I didn't really plan anything like a great escape, but adrenaline was running, and I just jumped and ran. I didn't run very far because my pants were in a wad around my ankles. I tripped after just 1 or 2 steps, but fortunately or luckily or intervention from above or something, I fell into a fast-moving mountain river that swept me away from my attacker and probably saved my life. Or I've got to put on long-sleeve shirts, and I've got to cover my bruises because I don't want anybody to know that this has happened.
Tell me, what's your 21-year-old mind telling you that you have to hide this?
I'm feeling shamed. I'm embarrassed. I feel stupid for having even gotten myself into such a dangerous situation. I should have known better. I thought that if my mother found out, she'd make me drop out of school and go home. I imagined people pointing at me and saying, that's that girl that was raped. And then the news was reporting that other people were missing. They're finding bodies up the canyon. And every time that happened, I was feeling guilt about all those other women. That if I had come forward, maybe he would have been captured.
Dicho esto, Bundy adoptó la estrategia de trasladarse de un estado a otro para evitar que la policía diera con él. Pero, con el paso del tiempo, Bundy empezó a tener confianza y sus ataques se volvieron cada vez más erráticos y temerarios. Algunas de sus víctimas se convirtieron en testigos, lo que más tarde haría posible que dieran con él. En agosto del 75, un patrullero detuvo a un Volkswagen en Salt Lake City para comprobar su matrícula. El sospechoso se dio a la fuga, pero fue detenido poco después. El vehículo, tras el operativo, se encontró un kit de herramientas compuesto por una palanca de metal, esposa, cinta, linterna, cuerdas y otros objetos que dieron inicio a una investigación un poco más grande. Dicho esto, dio como resultado que el conductor de aquel Volkswagen era, efectivamente, Ted Bundy.
How did you feel when he was arrested?
When I saw him on TV, and then I knew his real name was Ted, that's when I knew that he was my bad guy, and I knew their monster was my monster.
What do you see when you look at that face now?
What a waste. His whole life was about hurting people and causing pain and suffering, and he looked so normal.
A pesar de estar en prisión, Bundy planeó su huida con una precisión escalofriante. En junio de 1977, mientras se encontraba en la biblioteca del tribunal en Aspen, Colorado, preparándose para su juicio, aprovechó un momento de descuido de los oficiales. Saltó desde una ventana del segundo piso, lesionándose levemente el tobillo, pero aún así logró escapar. Durante 6 días, Bundy se escondió en las montañas de Aspen, sobreviviendo de comida robada y refugios improvisados. Finalmente, fue recapturado porque intentaba robar un automóvil para huir ya del estado. No lo logró.
La determinación de Bundy no terminó ahí. En diciembre del 77, protagonizó un segundo escape de una prisión de máxima seguridad. Creó un agujero en el techo de su celda y se deslizó hacia los conductos de ventilación. Esta vez Desapareció durante semanas, viajando hasta Florida, donde comenzaría otra cadena de terror. La madrugada del 15 de enero de 1978, Bundy irrumpió en la fraternidad Chi Omega de la Universidad Estatal de Florida, en Tallahassee. Allí, en un ataque brutal, a Margaret Bowman, de 21 años, estranguló con una media de nylon, y a Lisa Levy, de 20 años, quien sufrió múltiples golpes y un abuso. Ambas fallecieron en sus habitaciones mientras sus compañeras dormían.
As to Margaret Bowman, count 2 in this information. The court finds that the victim was a young girl in a college at Florida State University, a member of Chi Omega sorority, living in the sorority house and asleep in her bed. The defendant stealthily bludgeoned and pummeled her with an object later described by identifying witness as a lager club of rough texture. She was several times about the head. She had a ligature around her neck, which was a pantyhose that caused her death. The beating was vicious, vile, and wicked and atrocious. Indeed, the testimony showed that the frontal area of the brain of the skull was fractured, jagged, and exposed a portion of the brain. She was left in her own bed in a pool of body was lifeless. The defendant, while the victim was in her bed, was stripped of her night clothing. One nipple was inside. There was also a bite mark on the buttocks. There was evidence of anal trauma, and she was left in a pool of in her own bed. Her body near death. She expired a very short time later. The court finds that both of these killings are indeed heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that they were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile, and the product of a design to inflict a high degree of pain and utter indifference to human life.
En el mismo ataque, Bundy hirió gravemente a Karen Chandler y a Katie Kleiner, quienes sobrevivieron, pero quedaron con secuelas físicas y emocionales de por vida.
How about your roommate? What time did she come in, do you know?
She came in probably a little after 11:30.
And what did y'all do after she came in?
Well, she went right to bed, and I sat for a little while, and then I turned off the TV and went to bed.
Okay. And did you hear any noises or were you aroused during the night?
No, sir.
What is the next thing that you remember?
Being lifted into the ambulance.
You recall that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the next thing that you remember after that?
Getting sick.
Where was that, if you know?
At the hospital.
How long were you at the hospital, Karen?
From that Saturday night until Friday afternoon of the next week.
Okay. Were you injured?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us what your injuries were?
Well, I was hit, and I had cuts on my head. I had a broken jaw. Some of my teeth were knocked out. I had broken facial bones. I had a broken arm and a crushed finger.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
A crushed finger.
Karen, do you know who did that to you?
No, sir.
Were you awake or asleep at the time that it happened?
I was asleep.
Nothing further.
Mr. Harvey? Will this young lady be excused? I think you're free to go, young lady. Who is your next witness, Mr.
Kathy Kleiner Shields. Was your roommate there at that time?
Yes, sir.
Did both of you go to bed at the same time?
No, sir. She was sewing, and I got ready to go to bed, and she was watching a movie on TV, and she went to bed shortly after.
Did you go to sleep?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear any noises, or were you aroused that night?
I was awoken after I was attacked, and I remember commotion, but I didn't have my glasses on and I don't remember anything that was going on, just a lot of commotion.
Could you tell us the first thing that you do remember?
Sorority sisters, I believe it was Jackie McGill and Nancy Dowdy, and I was asking for my pastor, Austin, and my boyfriend David. And I remember paramedics were being there.
Okay. Was this still at the sorority house?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. What's the next thing that you remember?
Being taken down the stairs on the stretcher and taken out into the ambulance.
Okay. Were you taken to the hospital?
I believe so. I don't remember anything else until I was in the hospital.
How long were you in the hospital?
About a week.
Could you tell us what injuries you had at that time?
My jaw was broken in 3 places. I had lacerations on my shoulder and like whiplash on my neck.
Okay. Any problem with your teeth?
Yes, sir. I had, my teeth are still loose on the bottom, and I have a pin in my jaw.
Kathy, do you know who did this to you?
No, sir.
Nothing further.
May this young lady be excused? I think you're free to go, young lady.
Judge, this is a logical breaking point.
Are you going to have some time in the next one?
2 semanas después, el 9 de febrero del 78, Kimberly Lynch, una niña de 12 años, desapareció mientras caminaba hacia su escuela en Lake City, Florida. Su cuerpo fue hallado 2 meses después en un cobertizo abandonado. Kimberly fue la última víctima conocida de Bundy. Un recordatorio desgarrador de que su violencia no conocía límites.
Durante sus juicios, Bundy insistió en representarse él mismo, mostrando una confianza perturbadora.
Why did you decide to defend yourself?
I began thinking about that way back in Utah. I had a year to study criminal law and action, and I have a lot of I'm a very biased person, and I have a lot of strong opinions about how things should be done. And when I came here, I think that my opinions were established at the point where the method that my attorneys wished to impose here and my own did not agree, and we couldn't coexist. And theirs were right for them, and mine are going to be right for me. I have the greatest amount of confidence that, at least in the preparation stage, that my ideas will work. And believe me, I'm not standing here alone. I'm just called a half a dozen attorney friends of mine today. Every day I get input. Every day I ask questions. But the reason I went on my own is because I just felt it was time. I felt it was right. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to become a part of my defense because I am such a part of it. I mean, I obviously I'm going to bear the consequences, so why not bear the responsibility of seeking my own acquittal and sustaining my own innocence.
A pesar de sus intentos por manipular el sistema, las pruebas en su contra eran abrumadoras. En 1976 fue condenado por privar de la libertad a personas y en juicios posteriores se adjudicaron varios que le privó de la vida. Eso le adjudicaron. Bundy mantuvo su inocencia en gran parte a lo largo del juicio.
I haven't been following your case that closely, but you'll have to agree you're the target of a great deal of mystery, and you said earlier macabre interest.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I mean, well,
you'll have to admit there's a hell of a lot of circumstantial evidence, at least circumstantial. It seems to somebody who has simply read newspapers and articles.
No, I won't admit that. No, there's. I don't call it. It's not circumstantial as far as I'm concerned. I don't really know exactly what you're referring to, and I don't really want to discuss it. But I don't care what anybody says or the suspicions anyone harbors on the basis of that misinformation. And indeed, that's what I call it: circumstantial information, perhaps, but misinformation as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people trying to pin a lot of stuff on somebody because, it's convenient.
Are you angry?
Sure, I get angry. Very, very angry and indignant. I don't like being locked up for something I didn't do, and I don't like my liberty taken away, and I don't like being treated like an animal, and I don't like people walking around and ogling me like I'm some sort of weirdo, because I'm not. I'm perfectly happy with the person I am, and I've always been.
Have you ever physically harmed anyone?
Ever physically harmed anyone? No. No. Again, not in the context, I think, that you're speaking of.
Okay.
Alternando entre la negación y las confesiones parciales, que obviamente buscaban ganar tiempo.
Finding the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy guilty of the following crimes: burglary of a dwelling and assaulting a person therein, to wit Karen Chandler and Kathy Klein. Count 2, murder in the first degree, to wit Margaret Bowman. Count 3, murder in the first degree, to wit Lisa Levy. Count 4, attempted murder in the first degree, to wit Karen Chandler. Count 5, attempted murder in the first degree, Kathy Klein. Count 6, burglary of a dwelling and assaulting a person therein, to wit Cheryl Thomas. Count 7, attempted murder in the first degree, to wit Cheryl Thomas. After the defendant was adjudicated guilty by the court in each count, which the court has previously adjudicated in each count of the indictment, do Theodore Robert Bundy be adjudicated guilty of murder in the first degree, and that you be sentenced to death for the murder of Margaret Bowman. As to count 3 of the indictment, do Theodore Robert Bundy be adjudicated guilty of murder in the first degree, and that you be sentenced to death for the murder of Lisa Levy. It is further ordered that you, Theodore Robert Bundy, be taken by proper authority to the Florida State Prison, and there be kept and closely confined until the date of your execution is set. It is further ordered that on such scheduled date that you be put to death by a current of electricity sufficient to cause your immediate death, and such current of electricity shall continue to pass through your body until you are dead. This order is done and ordered in open court in Miami-Dade County, Florida, this 31st day of July, 1979, AD. I say that to you sincerely. Take care. It's a tragedy for this court to see that such a total waste, I think, of humanity that I've experienced in this court. You're a bright young man. You made a good lawyer. I'd love to have you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner. Take care of yourself. I don't have any animosity to you. I want you to know that. Take care of yourself. Going to be in recess. Remain seated, please, till the judge is out of the courtroom.
Los años que Bundy pasó en el corredor de la muerte estuvieron marcados por apelaciones constantes y un intento desesperado por retrasar su ejecución. En sus últimos días, confesó algunos de sus crímenes, pero nunca reveló la magnitud completa de sus actos.
Ted, it is about 2:30 in the afternoon. You are scheduled to be executed tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock if you don't receive another stay. What is going through your mind? What thoughts have you had in these last few days?
Well, I won't kid you to say that it's something that I feel that I am in control of, or something that I've come to terms with, because I haven't. It's a moment-by-moment thing. Sometimes I feel very tranquil, and other times I don't feel tranquil at all. What's going through my mind right now is to use the minutes and hours that I have left as fruitfully as possible and see what happens. It helps to live in the moment, in the essence that we use it productively. So right now I'm feeling calm, and in large part because I'm here with you. Listen, I'm no social scientist, and I haven't done a survey. I mean, I don't pretend that I know what John Q. Citizen thinks about this. But I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them
was deeply involved in pornography without question, without exception.
Carrying that load, that weight, is the remorse there?
Again, I know that people will accuse me of being self-serving, but we're beyond that now. I mean, I'm just telling you how I feel. But through God's help, I have been able to come to the point where much too late, but better late than never, feel the hurt and the pain that I am responsible for.
One of the final murders that you committed, of course, was apparently little Kimberly Leach, 12 years of age. I think the public outcry is greater there because an innocent child was taken from a playground. What did you feel after that? Were there the normal emotions 3 days later? Where were you, Ted?
I can't really talk about that right now.
That's too painful.
I would like to be able to convey to you what that experience is like, but I can't. I won't be able to talk about that.
Okay.
I can't begin to understand. Well, I can try, but I'm aware that I can't begin to understand the pain that the parents of these children that I have, and these young women that I have harmed, feel. And I can't restore really much to them, if anything. I won't pretend to, and I don't even expect them to forgive me, and I'm not asking for it. That kind of forgiveness is of God, and if they have it, they have it. If they don't, well, maybe they'll find it someday.
Do you deserve the punishment the state has inflicted upon you?
That's a very good question, and I'll answer very, very honestly. I don't want to die. I'm not going to kid you. I'll kid you not. I deserve certainly the most extreme punishment society has, and I think society deserves to be protected from me and from others like me. That's for sure. I think what I hope will come of our discussion is I think society deserves to be protected from itself, because as we've been talking, there are forces at loose in this country, particularly, again, this kind of violent pornography, where, on the one hand, well-meaning, decent people will condemn behavior of a Ted Bundy while they're walking past a magazine rack full of the very kinds of things that send young kids down the road to be Ted Bundys. That's the irony. We're talking here not just about more. What I'm talking about is going beyond retribution, which is what people want with me. Going beyond retribution and punishment, because there is no way in the world that killing me is going to restore those beautiful children to their parents and correct and soothe the pain. But I'll tell you, there are lots of other kids playing in streets around this country today who are going to be dead tomorrow and the next day and the next day and next month, because other young people are reading the kinds of things and seeing the kinds of things that are available in the media today.
El 24 de enero del 89 fue ejecutado en la silla eléctrica en Florida. Tenía 42 años. Hasta el final, Bundy intentó mantener el control sobre la narrativa de su vida, dejando un legado de preguntas sin respuestas.
La historia de Ted Bundy es un recordatorio escalofriante de que el mal, a menudo, se esconde tras una máscara de normalidad. Gracias por acompañarme en este viaje de las sombras. ¿Les gustó este video? No olviden suscribirse, dejar su pulgar arriba. Nos vemos en el siguiente video del mundo de Nox. Soy su amigo Mundus Nox. Hasta pronto.